Okay, everyone, we're going to go ahead and get started. On behalf of Advicent and 20 over 10, I'd like to thank everybody for joining us today. Before we get too into it, I just want to provide a bit of context for WebEx. In case you haven't used it before, everything you should need today should be in the right-hand panel. We are going to have some polling questions throughout, so feel free to participate in those. They will pop up as we introduce them. And additionally, ask questions throughout. We will try to answer them in real time. If we're unable to, we'll circle back to all questions at the end. And lastly, we will be recording this and distributing it to everybody as well at the end, so you can share it with colleagues and then review that way. So a little bit about myself, and then Amanda will introduce herself as well. My name is Andy Pinkalski. I'm the marketing manager at Advicent. I oversee our marketing strategy, and Advicent is best known for our financial planning software, Naviplan. We also provide some marketing communications support to the market through a tool called Advisor Briefcase. It is an email marketing tool that provides FINRA-reviewed content to advisors for them to distribute to their clients and prospects. Our marketing program has a heavy focus on thought leadership. We are very focused on need selling as opposed to feature selling, and that's how we resonate our tools within the marketplace. And we use a wide range of marketing tools for our needs, but something I'm hoping everybody can take away from today is there are a lot of actionable quick wins that small businesses can succeed upon, regardless of any kind of technology spend. And then I'll kick things over to Amanda so she can introduce herself and 20 over 10.
Great, thanks, Andy. My name is Amanda Larson. I'm from 20 over 10. For those of you who aren't familiar with 20 over 10, we are an online marketing and website development company designed specifically for financial advisors. So I'm Associate Director of Digital Marketing here at 20 over 10. So I oversee all of our digital media and marketing functions for the 20 over 10 brand. But then I also assist our clients in helping them understand the value of their online presence and helping them amplify their brands more through social media, through copywriting, through search engine optimization, and a lot of other digital media and digital marketing tactics. So I'm excited to be here today.
Thanks, Amanda. So before we get into our actual 5 tips for today, we want to set a little bit of context around buyer behaviors at large, both in the B2B space that we work in, and then also the B2C space and financial services space at large. So the buyer journey has drastically evolved over the last decade. The way that an individual researches a financial advisor to buying a car to a pair of running shoes is extremely specialized, and what used to be generated primarily by outbound tactics has really become tailored to 3 stages and best satisfied by an inbound approach. So what we're going to be looking at today is how tactics through the awareness, consideration, and decision stage can be more specialized for your prospecting efforts, and also through communicating with your existing partners. Most of what we focus on today will be focused within the awareness and consideration, but decision may still come up as well. So beginning with the awareness stage, this is the effort that businesses put into gaining visibility before their prospects are even aware that they're looking to leverage their service or product. In the 21st century, the most common examples of some of these are digital ads, ensuring that you are optimized for search. Thought leadership plays a big part in this, as well as we'll discuss as we move forward. Tactic-wise, consideration leverages very similar things with that awareness stage. However, here what we're trying to do is figure out how we can more effectively obtain either contact information from our prospects or get them to raise their hand for contact. And typically those are one and the same, but as we see when we discuss thought leadership, those two do kind of commingle. So from an advisor's perspective, things that can come up within the consideration stage may be an online assessment tool. It may be as simple as a contact form to set up a meeting. Really just those touch points that allow you to capture contact information and demographic data that allows you to assess how you can better serve this client before they even are a client yet. And then lastly, the decision stage is as that individual is entertaining in an advisor's world, becoming a client. So what we experience for a lot of our users who leverage a lot of content within the decision stage, this tends to take the form of testimonials from existing clients. Also, recommendation reports are a big factor. So those are the sort of things that tend to define each stage of the buyer journey. And so as mentioned before, the reason for this tailored buyer journey approach to marketing stems from the fact that marketing tactics of the past just no longer are as effective as they used to be. Traditional marketing was strictly outbound with a one-way communication approach, and the problem with the tactics that you see on the screen, especially for smaller businesses, are they can be very cost prohibitive. The exposure tends to be limited, or at least poor to define in regards to whether or not you are focusing on an older baby boomer who is closer to retirement or a younger millennial who is just starting to seek out financial advice as they climb out from under debt. So by taking an approach with the 3 phases of the buyer journey, we're able to much more tailor each message of the prospecting and partnership experience through those stages. And just to share some additional research around how the buyer journey has changed, 90% of all purchasing decisions are not made consciously, and typically what you're seeing both in the B2C and business-to-business space is that products that can either evoke emotion or demonstrate value are the ones that are typically going to win. Similarly, 81% of shoppers conduct online research before buying, and 67% of the buyer journey is also completed digitally. And as I mentioned, the tactics used within the awareness and the consideration stage are often very similar. And as you'll see here, 72% of buyers turn to Google during the awareness stage, and then 70% of those individuals are also returning to Google as they enter the consideration stage. So as we begin to look at how we can shift our marketing approaches to inbound, this is all about maintaining an open dialogue with the brand and the consumer, and then also ensuring that you are where you need to be before they are even considering you as a potential solution to their need. And here's a list of things that we're going to definitely be touching on today insofar as how we can execute on inbound strategies without ballooning our marketing budget. And so now we're going to enter into our tips for quick wins, and we are going to start with Amanda. So I'll kick it over to her as we introduce our first poll.
Great, thanks, Andy. So I think we're going to launch a poll here. Would love, you guys to participate in that. We're just kind of wanting to get a feel on what best describes your firm's current website. So are you a firm that manages your own website and you're updating it frequently? Are you a firm that maybe has a website but you rarely update it? Maybe you have a third party that manages your website and updates it for you. Maybe that third party manages it but never updates it, or maybe you don't have a website. So would love your answers to that polling question within the WebEx panel to kind of help set out this part of our presentation.
All right, that looks like pretty much everyone.
Great. Let's see, Andy, I don't think I'm able to see the responses to the poll. Can you read those out to me?
I can share them as well. Sorry, just one click away. Can you see?
Perfect.
Can everybody see them now?
Yes. All right. So it looks like, make this a little bigger. Sorry, Andy, I'm just having a hard time reading the results. Looks like 25% are saying your firm manages it and updates it frequently, so that's great. And that looks like that was probably our top answer to that. So that's great to hear that, you know, a lot of you have your own website and you're updating it frequently. That's always great. So it looks like second in place, it sounds like a third party maybe manages your website and kind of or doesn't really frequently update it for you. So that's kind of a good baseline for us to have, Andy. If you want to switch over to the next slide, we can start to dig right into our first tip. And I think, you know, our first tip, of course, is going to be building an effective website. So I think a lot of times maybe it seems obvious that you need to have a website in order to conduct any kind of digital marketing. And, you know, working at 20 over 10, we find we work with a lot of different advisors, and we work with some who don't even have a website. They come to us with no website. Some come to us who have a website, but it's just not working. Maybe it's clunky, it's hard to update. So we have, you know, we work with people in a lot of different situations, but what's really important is to have an effective website. It's going to be the first step in building any successful digital marketing strategy. So I've got a few bullet points up here to definitely keep in mind as you're building an effective website. The first being responsive design. This should always be top of mind when you're looking to build a website or if you're looking to redesign your website. You know, I've read a stat recently that 60% now of the time spent by users browsing the internet is on a mobile device. So that's more than half of people browsing the internet using a mobile device. So not having a mobile-friendly website is definitely out of the question, especially in this technology-driven age. So definitely as you're kind of thinking about if you're wanting to switch website providers, what platform you're using, responsive design should definitely be the top on your questions. I think what's also important about responsive design here is, and we'll talk a little bit about this some more when we get to SEO, but Google is now going to start penalizing sites that are not mobile optimized. So they're going to start bumping down any sites in search engine rankings that are not optimized for mobile. This is so important. Secondly, we have, you know, you want to be sure your site is secure and compliant, especially in the financial services industry. So, you know, you're working with a lot of client portals, you're sharing a lot of different files, you have client forms that you're exchanging. So having a site with an SSL certificate is going to be really, really important. It's not only going to make your clients feel more secure, more comfortable and safe, but it's also going to provide that, that shield for your business as well. And then compliance, of course, is another important factor to take into consideration when you're choosing a website provider. As an advisor, it's required by compliance that all of your marketing content is archived. So even if you work with a compliance officer or if you're on your own compliance officer, you know, you just need to be sure that you have access to all those archives on your website and you can easily access them. We've got third-party integrations on here as well. What we mean by that are things like incorporating a meeting scheduling app onto your website, incorporating a CRM tool, and then of course analytics. So for meeting scheduling, you know, incorporating this on your website is definitely just going to help utilize your time more productively. It's also going to help your clients and provide a more user-friendly experience. They're going to be able to go on your website and with one click book a meeting with you. So a lot of times when we work with advisors, we see them use a lot of different softwares for this, like Calendly, Time Trade, or Schedule Once, or some of the more popular ones that come up. Next, we have CRM tools, so customer relationship management tools. These are very popular as well from a sales perspective. So having and integrating a CRM tool into your site is definitely going to help your sales process with your lead generation and continuing to nurture those leads. And will bring you some really great data and insight to help further inform some of your sales strategies for your firm. And then analytics, of course, who doesn't love data, especially in our industry? So Google Analytics is a free tool that you should definitely be incorporating into your website. It's really going to help you track your website efforts and monitor the analytics to your site and help you make inferences based on that data as to what you should be doing with your marketing efforts. So with analytics tools like Google Analytics, you'll be able to see your bounce rate, check on your returning traffic, what pages are receiving the most traffic. You'll be able to see where people are viewing your website from. A lot of really great data. And then lastly, we've got two other points here. We definitely want to have a website that's going to capture leads. So we see a lot of folks using just lead capture forms here is definitely an option, but definitely a place on your website or multiple places where you can be capturing some leads to either do a drip campaign or just kind of help within that lead nurture process. And then lastly, it's all about aesthetics as well and design. So you definitely want to be sure you're using imagery and messaging that's going to be consistent with your brand voice. So you want to be sure you're kind of portraying a cohesive brand image from page to page of your website. So Amy, if you want to hop over to the next slide, this is just a quick example. Gibson Wealth is actually a site we worked on that went live about a year ago, but I felt like it was a pretty good example in one shot of just all the things that we just went over. So Gibson Wealth is an independent comprehensive financial planning firm based in Texas. This is really just a screenshot of their homepage, so it doesn't do it justice, but I think just from this screenshot you can kind of see they have the schedule a meeting button in the bottom right-hand corner, which goes to their Calendly. So their clients and their prospects can easily, with one click, go on and schedule an appointment with Gibson. And then there's another CTA right here, front and center on their website. Learn about your risk number. This button, when clicked, goes to Riskalyze, but it's also capturing leads for prospects and clients who visit the Gibson site. So they're able to get name, email address, to start that lead capture and work on nurturing some of those leads.
Okay, moving into tip number 2, we're going to talk a little bit about how you can elevate your thought leadership status through content. I'd be lying if I said this is an easy undertaking, but having said that, like so much of what we're going to talk about today, consistency is key. Some advisors are obviously more comfortable with generating written content than others, but it is a fantastic way to get your business traffic through a variety of digital channels. As we'll talk about a little bit later, search engines love long-form content. It's something that they really use as a means to validate a site's integrity, to make sure it's not just attempting to take advantage of high-value search terms. So if you can start building a thought leadership program within your existing site's infrastructure, and then also equally advantageous is if you can then get that same content shared throughout other contexts within the industry, it can really start to move the needle for your website. So as a business begins to explore starting their thought leadership content, they need to keep their target audience in mind. And this is actually a bit more of target audiences. And so with each piece of content, you kind of need to consider what the ultimate result from it would be. Obviously, something, as I mentioned before, geared towards a millennial saddled with debt is going to be different than something that is for an individual nearing retirement age. And the key thing here, too, is that your prospects and clients alike want helpful content. Going back to the awareness stage where thought leadership is very important, I guarantee you individuals looking for a financial advisor are likely online researching financial topics before they are pursuing meetings with anybody. And so the goal here is to be able to start generating some of that cursory content yourself in a way that then places you within search. So once somebody is ready to start considering advisors, hopefully your website is already fresh in their brain. Similarly, a big part of this is staying abreast of industry trends, and with that, you need to continue to leverage yourself and your business as experts in your field locally, and then, if applicable, nationally. Some of these may sound a little bit excessive, but in our experience with the advisors that we work with, there are plenty of opportunities locally for advisors to expand their reach through speaking and teaching opportunities. Universities are great locations for young professionals in graduate and doctorate programs who definitely could benefit from financial advice. Similarly, small businesses and professional organizations within the area are often looking to leverage financial experts in that same use case. Similarly, this one also may sound silly, but pitching yourself to the media is a very real thing. As someone who personally used to work in a newsroom, I can guarantee you that local editors and reporters pride themselves on maintaining a deep bench of subject matter experts locally. And so if you are noticing industry trends locally or nationally, it is definitely not out of reason to be reaching out with suggestions or friendly pointers to local editorial staffs. They will definitely seek you out for comment in the future if you do so. And last, as is the case with much of this, leverage technology to make the process easier. Social is a great avenue where most of this content will ultimately end up if you're looking to not break the bank. And as stated at the beginning, consistency is key. So we also just wanted to share two examples of advice and thought leadership. The point we're trying to emphasize here is how buyer journey stage matters. So on the left, we have an example of something that we share in the awareness stage, which is lighter, really doesn't have a lot of through lines to our primary products, but it is something that helps position us as experts on a subject within our audience's mind. And if nothing else, it develops name recognition for ourselves moving forward. Then once somebody does enter the consideration stage, we then hope to direct them towards this resource. If you can't beat them, join them, which begins to focus a bit more on actual buying decisions around financial planning software, and this allows us to position our actual solution a little bit more directly for them. Okay, so we're going to open our second poll as we move on to the email marketing topic. So you'll see a poll pop up in just a second. The question being, what best describes your firm's current email marketing strategy? Okay, we received a good amount of responses. It looks like the most common response is that most people seem to email their clients and prospects individually as needed. Also good to see that second most is that most people are emailing automated content to prospects and existing clients as needed. So it sounds like we have a pretty proactive bunch, but we will roll through some additional email marketing tips as well. So similar to what Amanda said about the website, the same thing goes for email, where you have to make it mobile first. The overwhelming majority of business emails and consumer emails are opened on smart devices in this day and age. And so your communications, especially if they're image heavy, need to be optimized accordingly. Another important thing is that it is most effective for email communications if you can commit to one desired outcome. We use a phrase in marketing a lot of attempting to boil the ocean, meaning that we may use one communication that attempts to grab the attention of every single segment of our market possible. But for our audience, what we need to realize is that the way we talk to a large bank is going to be different than we talk to a small independent advisor. And so what we find is that our communications become much more effective if we aren't trying to do a catch-all and send a reasonable amount of numerous communications for each tailored segment. So a communication to our bank audience who only receives one opportunity to convert, or an email would be clicking a link, as opposed to 10 links within an email hoping to catch a little bit of everybody. Continuing with that, it's extremely important that you are testing your content to ensure higher engagement. We're going to show a use case of that on the next slide, but most practical email marketing tools allow for what's called A/B testing, and even if you are not leveraging an email marketing automation tool, it's still a typically easy thing to sort of execute on your own, so long as you can identify pockets of your client base that you'd like to test it with. And then lastly, which will be informed by your testing, you have to follow Einstein's rule in marketing, which is don't expect different results from doing the exact same thing. So if your metrics on engagement are starting to fall off, it probably means that it's time to switch something up. So this is a recent example of some success we had with an A/B test. It's something we do very frequently just to ensure our open metrics are as best as they can be. So for those unfamiliar with A/B testing is sending a communication in which one variable within that communication is changed and everything else is the same. You send this test out to a small portion of your whole audience, typically somewhere between 10 and 20%, and then whatever is the most successful from that small test audience goes out to the remaining percentage of your base. So typically what we're testing for open rates is subject lines. Another common thing to be testing is imagery, call to actions, if something like learn more works better than click here. But often what we're testing is subject lines. So for our subject line A, we went with something very straightforward, just trying to communicate to everybody what the resource is. In this case, what we were testing was a video we had developed for a campaign that focused on advisors' high net worth planning strategy. So for the first subject line, we kept it simple, straightforward, video, refining your high net worth strategy. For the second subject line, we kind of wanted to tease and play a little bit at something that advisors may be wondering themselves. So for the second subject line, we did, how well do you know your most valuable clients? And as you can see in the bullets, subject line A had an open rate of 13%. The second one, which we had a hunch may work a little bit better, was validated by a 26% open rate, and so that allowed us to know subject B was likely the better one to go with, and so that's what we selected to send to the remaining group. And now I'm going to transfer things back over to Amanda for SEO.
Great, thanks, Andy. So there are so many different rabbit holes we could go down when it comes to the topic of SEO, and I know it's a hot topic now lately, but today I'm just going to kind of briefly cover the basics. You know, SEO can really seem like a moving target sometimes, and it's definitely not a set it and forget it tactic for your digital marketing strategy. So it's definitely something you need to continue to work on. But these basic tips are really going to help to just kind of kickstart your SEO efforts. So these first two bullet points using your website to leverage your best SEO practices and using top keywords in your title tags and header tags kind of go hand in hand. Within your website, you want to be sure that whatever CMS platform or website provider you're using, you want to be sure that it's SEO friendly. So if you're looking at which website provider to use, that should definitely be on your list of questions as well. You want to be able to go in and edit your title tags and your header tags, on your own free will. These keywords within your title tags and header tags are definitely going to be a huge ranking factor for search engines like Google. So you want to be sure that you're using some of those keywords within those tags to help the search results that come up when someone is searching for those keywords. Your NAP consistency is also really important. So name, address, phone number is what we mean here. That data needs to be consistent across every single business listing that you have online. It's really, really important. It seems really, futile, but little inconsistencies such as spelling out sweet versus using the acronym STE is really going to set off flags for Google. So it's super important that wherever your name, your business name, your address, your phone number is appearing, everything is consistent. You're dotting your I's and crossing your T's. Everything needs to be absolutely perfect. Next, we have blogging and fresh content. So Andy, kind of mentioned this earlier. Definitely what we see a lot is that advisors don't oftentimes understand that the content needs to be live. You can't just post a PDF to your website and expect it to help with your SEO efforts. So content needs to be live. It needs to be original content. So no canned content or syndicated content is going to be, really key when it comes to SEO. Also, like Andy mentioned, the longer form pieces, blog posts, definitely help on average. So we typically recommend 2,200 to 2,500 words for a blog post. Will definitely help. You'll start to see a tremendous impact on your SERPs. So where you're showing up in the results page. And then lastly here we've got backlink opportunities. So this is definitely something, again, that's going to happen over time, but it's something you should always keep in the back of your mind and continue to work on. So the way backlinks work with search engines is the more links you have from other sites that are directing traffic to your site, the better. This even includes being on social media, which we'll talk about later on, but having those additional links back to your website are what we call backlinks. The domain authority also helps with your search engine rankings. So for example, if you have a website, like say the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal did an interview with you, and they link back to your website. Because larger websites like that have a lot more domain authority, it's going to hold a lot more weight with Google, which in turn will help your search rankings. Andy, if you want to go to the next slide, we're just kind of showing here, this is a 20 over 10 client financial planning done right. So they offer financial solutions specifically to those in the sharing economy. So Uber drivers, Airbnb hosts, they have a very, very specific target audience. This is just a screenshot of their blog page and some of their most recent posts. So they do a really, really, really great job of producing timely and relevant content for their target market through their blog. So I know the last one's kind of cut off, but that third blog post of what sharing economy workers need to know, I think it was about filing their taxes, was very timely with tax season having just wrapped up, and then he's really catering his post towards his target audience of the sharing economy. So like I mentioned earlier, Google really loves long form content and fresh content. So producing fresh content through your blog that's longer in length is definitely going to have an impact on your search engine rankings. And next, just to kind of talk a little bit about social media, we work with hundreds of advisors on their digital marketing, and sadly, social media is usually the one channel that easily gets pushed to the wayside, which I can totally understand, but it is very, very important. So we wanted to just talk a little bit about how, as an advisor, you can leverage social media to keep distributing the content that you're pushing out, the thought leadership content that Andy was talking about. It doesn't have to be hard. We've got some bullet point tips up here and how, we can kind of make your life easier. The first is using an editorial calendar and building that editorial calendar. You can do that weeks in advance. You can do it months in advance. Just, take a few hours, sit down and do it, knock it out. Then you've got all that content in front of you for the next few weeks, and you don't have to worry about it. This is also, if your firm has an intern, this is also a really great intern project that you can kind of collaborate with them on as well. Next here we have content scheduling. So, running your firm and keeping up with social media can definitely be tough to handle. So there's a lot of scheduling softwares out there like Hootsuite and CoSchedule that can save you a ton of time and help manage your social presence. So you can only not schedule your post on there, but you can also interact through these softwares as well. And so you can also kind of get a better idea, monitor some of your analytics there so that you can schedule your social posts to lead to a higher engagement. Next, kind of making your content more visual. So, people are really going to be drawn to videos as well as imagery more than, lines and lines of written content. So we, at 20 over 10, we use a tool called Canva. They do have a free version of it, but it's a really great tool to kind of create your own visuals, overlaying text on top of images to accompany your social post that will kind of draw more users into. Of course, with social media, you definitely want to keep compliance in mind as well as with your website. So for independent RIAs, only your business profiles on social media are subject to adhere to compliance standards. So this includes Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. So definitely, if you're using a software, a lot of those softwares will help keep records of your social media activity, including, the posts that you're pushing out. So that's, going to be really helpful if you ever get audited or, when it comes that time, you have to keep those records for at least 3 years. So that may kind of seem like a challenge, and I think that's why a lot of advisors tend to kind of push social to the wayside, but there's a lot of archiving tools that can help make that a little bit more manageable. So some of the ones that your softwares that we typically recommend are Smarsh. I think Socialware is another really popular one. So record keeping is, is going to be really important when it comes to social media as well. And then lastly, just knowing what types of content to share through different channels. This is a question that we get a lot. And, your audience and your demographic is going to be different on Twitter than it is on LinkedIn. It's going to be different on Facebook than it is on Twitter. So it's really important to stay in tune with your audience and really understand what types of content they're gravitating towards, what they're really engaging with, and what they're liking. So you can continue to post, those similar types of content to those channels. This is just an example of a 20 over 10 client. It's a longtime 20 over 10 client of ours, Wealth Keel. They're located in Philadelphia, and they absolutely kill it on social media. What we're showing here is just a screenshot of their business Facebook page, but they just do a really tremendous job of sharing their blog posts. So they're leveraging that thought leadership content from their blog onto their social channels. And they also have a lot of really great videos that they share on their social channels as well, which get a lot of engagement and a lot of interaction.
Okay, I think now we want to just touch a little bit about how both 20 over 10 and Advicent technology can help solve some of these issues. And I believe we're going to touch on 20 over 10's platform first.
Great, thanks, Andy. So as I mentioned before, we are website builders for financial advisors specifically. So we definitely want you to join us and join our community of financial advisors. Whether you're looking to integrate video, maybe you do podcasts and you want to put those on your website. If you have some of those third-party integrations that we talked about earlier on today, our app is definitely built to handle it all. So we definitely welcome you to join us. You can build websites yourself, or you can work with our team of experts. If you go to our website, 20over10.com/webinars, we offer demos weekly. You're welcome to, come sit in on those. We'll give you a firsthand look at our platform. We are a content management system, so anything you do on your website, we have inline editor, so you're able to kind of see the text changes that you're making instantaneously. We also have a compliance feature as well, so I know that that's something we touched on earlier on in the presentation. So everything is automatically archived on your website to share with your compliance team on our Providence platform. We have unlimited landing pages and unlimited blogs. So definitely invite you guys to join us for a demo if you're interested, and I can post that link here in the chat box.
Thanks, Amanda. And touching on some Advicent technology, our financial planning tools, Naviplan and Profiles, both respectively feature some fact-finding and online assessment tools. We also do offer a tool called Advisor Briefcase, which is a marketing communications tool. We generate content in-house that is then FINRA reviewed. It's a pretty substantial library, and it allows advisors to deploy ongoing content to both their existing base and then prospects. And the results for it are pretty substantial that many of our users have experienced. Those who send more than 100 emails in 3 months experience an average email click-through rate of 9%, which is 3 times higher than the industry average. So it can be a result driver if you do not have the wherewithal to generate a lot of content in-house and also want to add some efficiencies in sending that content out to your users or clients. And this is just a little sample of what the interface for our platform looks like. We also want to encourage you too, since a lot of what we talked about today was thought leadership focused, both of our teams really pride ourselves on the thought leadership programming we put together. Our respective blogs are both easy to find from either of our home pages. So if you are kind of looking for any inspiration, definitely seek our channels out. And kind of poke around to see the sort of stuff we're making. Hopefully it can kind of fire up some ideas in your head. And this is also then just a collection of stuff that both of our teams work on. 20 over 10 has a lot of webinars. They're pretty active on social as we are. We do a lot of infographics and white papers and videos. So feel free to check it out. And again, if there are any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. I think we had a couple earlier on. Let's see. Amanda, we have one participant who was wondering the name of a software you mentioned. I believe it was Canva. I'm not exactly sure on the spelling of that. If you could clarify.
Yeah, so Canva, canva.com. I'm assuming that's our attendees kind of referring to the social media and creating images for social media posts. So Canva is a really great and free, there's a free option resource for that.
Thanks, Amanda. Another question that just came in, our firm is a CPA firm and we have a website provided through a website developer that focuses on CPA firms. How could we connect tools or content to our website regarding financial planning? As mentioned by Amanda and myself a little bit, as far as integrations are concerned, I believe 20 over 10 offers. Amanda, did you mention that you guys had another tool that sort of specializes in content as well, and is that integrated to a website, or is it more based around email?
Yeah, we do offer a blogging solution. It's called Content Assist, but it's not email marketing. It's strictly just blogging.
Yeah, and insofar as other tools or content to connect to the current website, I'm not aware of any sort of like feed integrations that would just automatically generate content, if I'm understanding the question correctly. Similarly to what Amanda mentioned, it's important that the content is original. If you are just looking to inform partners though, clients, you can definitely share as much as you want from other industry resources. It just may not move the needle that much on search engine optimization and stuff like that.
Good question.
All right, well, if there aren't any other questions, I just want to thank everybody for joining us again today. Hopefully you took at least one thing away that was a bit actionable. I'm throwing a bit of contact information for both of our companies up right now. Definitely encourage, again, to explore some of our thought leadership and marketing tactics for inspiration. We will be providing this webinar to everybody. We also have a lot of this information in an ebook form, which we will be sending to everybody as well. Having said that, if there are any other more specific inquiries or anything, feel free to reach out to either of the email contacts there, and we'll try to respond as quick as we can. But thank you again for joining us.
Hey, Andy?
Yes?
For anyone that's still on the line, we do actually have a few other questions on the Q&A. I'm not sure if they're popping up on your side or not.
Oh, I apologize.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah,
if people want to stick around and answer a couple, though, we've got one that's just about, can you guys elaborate on what thought leadership means? Give a little more context around that.
Yeah, I can start with that one. So thought leadership is definitely a bit of a buzzword right now. What it refers to is positioning your brand and your team as experts within your field on the solutions that your customers are seeking out. So for advisors, that would be financial expertise. It would be for something like the awareness stage, generating blogs or videos or even simple social media posts if you're just looking to get started quickly and lightly, that kind of conveys to potential clients that you are an expert in the sort of solutions for their financial needs that they're seeking. Amanda, if you want to add any clarity to that?
No, I think that's good.
Awesome. Okay, so a few more questions. We've got some still trickling in. So you guys talked before about kind of staying away from, doing syndicated content, making sure things are original. So we've got one question that says, so should advisor briefcase content not be used for blog posts?
Advisor briefcase content definitely can be shared that way. It's typically more so designed to deploy via email just out of convenience. That's how it was initially designed. But it is shareable via PDFs. Again, as Amanda had said, though, that content, since it does need to live as a PDF, which is the most common way that these are hosted in our application, it's not going to be able to improve any search engine placement for your site as well as it would if it were purely original content.
Great. So then we've got one question that I think maybe both of you guys can give your thoughts on. Brian's asking if you could give two of the most impactful marketing/medium forums for an advisor with very little experience in digital marketing to use, what would they be?
That's a great question.
Yeah, I think I need to take just a second to.
Well, I think I may be a little biased, but Brian, I think I would have to say your website is definitely going to be one of the most impactful digital marketing forms that you can, kind of work on. A lot of stuff now is done digitally and done online, and your website is going to be your home base kind of. So I think, that's definitely somewhere where you can start.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Something that kind of is easy to lose track of in what we talked about today is there's content, and then there are channels, and a lot of what we talked about today are channels like search engine or social media or business directories, but at the end of the day, you're going to be driving all of the traffic you gain through those channels, like Amanda is saying, back to your website. So at square one, we typically make sure that everything lives there first, and then we build out those traffic channels from there.
Great. So a couple more questions over on my side. You guys might need to tag team this one a little bit, but we're wondering, what is the difference between Advicent Advisor Briefcase and 20 over 10 Content Assist?
Great. And Andy, I don't know. I mean, you kind of alluded to this earlier with the newsletter versus the blog. So I don't know if you want to elaborate on that.
Yeah, the best I can clarify is Advisor Briefcase very much is built to deliver its content via email. It is my understanding, Amanda, correct me if I'm wrong, that your blog syndication platform is much more built for content to live on a website. I'm not terribly familiar with the content that you guys provide for syndication, but again, kind of to the whole content versus channel thing, that would be a little bit of the difference. And Amanda, you could speak better than I could as far as what liberties people have with the content you provide through that.
Yeah, most definitely. So Content Assist is only available to 20 over 10 users. So it's integrated right into our platform for our users, and you're able to go in and deploy whichever blog post you want. It's not syndicated content, it's original content because you have the full ability to edit, remove any pieces, add any pieces. We definitely encourage all of our users to add their own flavor and put their own spin on the articles. So we like to say we're just really giving you a starting point, and we encourage everybody to add their own flavor to the blog posts, which makes them unique.
All right, great. One final question then from my side, and Amanda, I think you might have answered this in one of the chat boxes, but just for everyone else to kind of hear, does 20 over 10 provide ongoing support or just one-time build support?
Yes, definitely. I posted a link in the chat box, but we offer around-the-clock support to all of our users at 20 over 10. We do have some public resources available on our support channel, that's support.20over10.com, and on our blog as well. That's blog.20over10.com. Our support channel, all the articles and all the video tutorials there are going to be specific to our platform, of course. But yes, we offer support all the time.
Great. Well, that's all the questions I had on my side. So.
Great.
Yeah, great questions at the end. Well, yeah, assuming there's not any last minute ones, thanks again everybody for joining us, and we will be sending this full recording, questions included, out to everybody shortly. So enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, and look forward to hopefully seeing you at some future webinars as well. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.